When you're about to turn 30, there's this feeling that you need to have pretty much everything in your life taken care of. There are responsibilities that come up. By now, you might have a few kids. You might have this career that you're working on and you're trying to progress within the company. You might have a bunch of these different things. I actually don't have any of those things. I don't have kids. I don't even have a relationship. And I also don't have any particular career other than what I'm doing here on YouTube and then with the books. So there is this feeling, though, that, at least in my case, I need to have things together. Everything falls on my shoulders. When you're in your 20s, you can rely on other people, you can rely on other circumstances, you can rely on others to sort of pretty much just carry on through life. And that's more the case today as more people are living at home. I think a lot of people, when they're about to hit 30, they're thinking, oh, maybe I need to get a home of my own, and how can I afford this? Or if you're in my case, you've got an apartment and you're just trying to figure out how you can continue to pay the bills for the next little while. Turning 30 feels like turning 25 to me. It's almost like a second wave of a quarter life crisis where you're thinking to yourself, is this where I want to go? At 25, you might have a degree. I had a degree at 22. And when 25 hit, I'm thinking, is this the career I want to be going towards? At 25, I believe I was just getting into the corporate world, just getting my feet wet with a marketing role. And I'm thinking, do I want to do this for the next 30 years? And I was enjoying it at the initial moment of being in the job. It's actually quite fun when you get your first real job and you kind of learn from others. You get to talk with teammates and you get to have fun. I quite enjoyed working for someone else and I didn't mind it at all. There came a time, though, that I realized I'm not the best person with bosses, and I like to go my own way with certain things. That's kind of the classic INTJ personality, somebody who's fairly autonomous in their approach. And what I learned is, I'm better off being my own boss and trying my own things. So I constantly revert back to entrepreneurship. Every time I work in a team, I get the nice social interaction, the collaboration that I really admire, and then also the desire to teach others. But then I always go back to who I am and what I really enjoy. And I do enjoy the entrepreneurial adventures that I pursue. And I'm saying all this because you might be about to turn 30, or maybe you're reflecting back on your 20s and you're about to hit 30 or what have you. And what I realize is you really do need to know who you are as you're getting to 30, because that's going to help guide you for the rest of your life. You almost need to start strategizing. Like, okay, the 20s were fun. The 20s were almost like a throwaway. I'm going to do a bunch of different things. I'm going to experiment. I'm going to explore. And then by the time I hit my 30s, I should probably have a rough idea on what I want to focus on so that I can get really good at it. At least I'm getting that feeling. There's this pit of anxiety kind of brewing as I... At the moment of me creating this video, I turned 30, and leading up to the day, there was definitely that feeling like this is reality. The 20s are fun. You hit 30, get it together. right? Unless you can look at your 30s, maybe experiment with those too. But you probably want to have, this will eat away at you because it's eating away at me. And if it's eating away at me, I think other 20-year-olds, late 20-year-olds are going to feel the same thing. If you don't have some sort of an idea of what you're doing, you don't have the sails set, and you're not going in a direction, you're likely going to feel every single day this feeling that you don't know what you're doing. And it's going to linger. So when you think about that, then it might be time to think, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to think through these days that I'm having, because you have to look at your days and say, is this the day that I want for myself? Because those days are going to turn into years. It's amazing how quickly you turn 30. When you look back on it, you're thinking, man, I was just 10 years old, and now I'm 30. It's a little scary, because that means how much quicker is it going to be in the next 30 years? Another thing about the late 20s and going into your 30-year-old age, the days do kind of blur if you're not watching them. If you're not watching actively how these days are transpiring, you'll start noticing that the days, they blur by. It's like a train moving, and you see the windows go by, and it's almost like a uniform window across the entire train. That's almost an analogy to how I look at late 20s transferring into the 30s. Is a single long window. And it moves by so quickly, and it's scary. It is tremendously scary, at least to me. Not sure how others feel about their late 20s to 30s, but it's nerve-wracking. Maybe more so because I don't have a secure job per se. I have a desire to create things, and there is this aspect of failure that I can't get by, whereas a job can give you security. And I think that anyone that's putting themselves out there, whether you're doing freelancing, whether you're doing a business or you're building something, there is this feeling that you could fail and that you could be working at McDonald's next week. What if the clients stop coming in for your freelance gig? There's no security there. And the job gives you a false sense of security in that you get a paycheck every single 2 weeks, a month, depending on how it's structured, but you get that paycheck. And there's that allure to it, especially when you don't have it. You want it because it helps you sleep at night. But you really have to start thinking when you hit your 30s. Now, men, it's a little easier. You can go beyond your 30s and still have fun, I guess. You can still experiment. You can still explore different things. Whereas women might have a different approach. They might start thinking, well, their biological clock is ticking, and they might start feeling like they have to settle down. And those emotions start to creep up. I'd say by 25 and 26, you're starting to feel like you need to settle down. I think women are now looking at it, though, and they're saying, hey, I can wait until my 30s because of how technology is progressing, and I think I could get away with waiting a little longer. And sure, the medical advances are coming up, and people are delaying having a family and going for the career. Certainly I'm doing that by focusing on entrepreneurial pursuits, and this is a lot of what people are doing today. And they're saying, hey, I'm going to forego the relationship and pursue this into my 30s. And I'm going to go hard with this. It's an interesting approach. I'd hate to be living with regret as I age. And as I turn 30, it feels like I could live with regret if I don't make certain decisions. Windows close. You have to say goodbye to certain things. Life closes doors and opens new ones, but you have to decide which doors you want closed because you can't go back. If you want to become a doctor, well, once you're hitting your 30s, it might be challenging to go back unless you have an extreme focus on what you want to do, but that's what you got to think about. Another thing that I notice is that I feel more calm. I just feel a lot more calm. I don't know whether it's testosterone reducing as you age. Maybe you're well, one of the doctors that I had, an immunologist, said that testosterone is lower in males once they hit their late 20s. So that's how I kind of feel. So things just seem a little more calm for me, which is, I guess, a good thing. You got your hormones in control, then you can start making decisions. Life becomes a little easier to, I suppose, navigate, because you're not running around. You're not getting swayed by feelings. And that's always a nice thing. But it is a scary feeling. Whenever you're looking at your life and you're thinking with anxiety that this is not necessarily where you want to be, but you're trying to travel through this unknown, that's always a scary feeling when you're kind of getting older. But I don't feel too bad knowing that I'm 30 now, and knowing that there's so many more years left. I know that there's so much more that I can achieve. And that's the other thing that you got to look at, is I want to turn this into an optimistic thing. It's very easy to look at the doom of aging, but you can look at life and say, I've got a number of years left, and there's so much I can do day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. And you just take it one step at a time, knowing that you have a good chunk of time, and that if you think about your life optimistically, you know that you can build something here that stands the test of time, and that others can enjoy it. And that feeling is always exciting to me, is that I'm not just in an office. I'm creating something. I'm sharing something that could help others. And that feels good to me. That feels good knowing that I can do this for a while. And then if you do this, and it feels good to you, you'll be able to sleep easier at night, knowing that you're not sure if it's helping anyone, but you're doing it because, well, it helps you to start. And if it helps you, it could help others. And that's good. Like these videos that I create, and then podcast form or what have you, it helps me because I'm hashing out my thoughts. I have a difficulty with too much thinking. So instead of tackling my inner self and putting myself down, I am now putting this stuff together on a spreadsheet. I'm getting my thoughts organized. Because, in my 20s, I was able to distract myself with different muses, different activities. I had jobs, I had sort of a direction. And then it all kind of got shattered at one point in my life. But, yeah, I was distracted, so I wasn't always thinking too much. But now I'm starting to track my thoughts, and it's incredible how much goes through my head. But now I can put it together piece by piece and start articulating what's going on. And that could be quite powerful to others. And a story might be created out of it. As we all turn 30, we look at that window, that uniform window that's becoming more and more uniform and faster as it accelerates, as the train accelerates beyond, and then we look kind of out in the distance and we see the train moving along. And some of the decisions that we didn't make are on that train, and they're moving away, and we're waving at them, and we're not going to see them again. They're going to fly away. Unless the train is on a circuit, because that train can always come back, and that's your decision. Just because you turn 50 doesn't mean you can't do something. I do think that you could reconnect. It just becomes much harder to find that train again. So, as you're still young, because I think at 30, I'm still darn young. I still feel young. And maybe things might stop working the way they used to, but they still feel good. And I don't want to create too much anxiety around how I feel. So the reality is, you're still young. And you still have so much more to achieve. But you have to start putting it together. Yes, you really do. You can't just think that it's all going to go together on its own. You have to go and put it together yourself. Put each individual window into play. That's just how I'm seeing it. I know that someone in their 50s or 60s could explain this much better than me, because they have been through it. They've been through this more so than myself. But it's fresh on my mind. And because of that, I think I can speak to what's gone on so far. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Till next time, toodles.